feminism. We're not going to do that in this class. We have to have that intersectional lens towards feminism. So I always tell people, rather than worrying about arguing whether or not we should get rid of this whole wave analogy, we need to recognize the enormous work that each wave has done, right? We as feminists have built upon all the previous waves and everything that they have done. But we also do have to recognize that there has been a significant lack of attention to other stories, other narratives, other experiences. I say internationally too. When we pinpoint feminism as springing forth in 1848, it's problematic because what about all the other women and men all over the world who have been talking about these issues for a very long time, right? Okay, so I love these little caricatures of feminists throughout time that we can see. So we're not going to dive too much into the stereotypes. I really want us to be able to talk about this when we are in class on Tuesday. Part of your homework assignment should really be to think about these stereotypes that we've heard about what a feminist is, right? We've all heard them. We hear them all the time. You can see them in these pictures. I should have probably put contemporary versions of what a feminist is as well. But I will talk about some of the objections towards feminism, and we'll expand more on Tuesday. But, when we think about a feminist, it's really, simply believing that everybody should be treated equally, regardless of sex and gender, right? It seems like a pretty simple concept to understand, but it is so dramatically misunderstood, right? I think there's many reasons why that it is misunderstood. I think a lot of social media, news outlets particularly, want us to continue to believe that feminists are, man-hating lesbians, blah, blah, because they're scared of feminism, right? Yeah, so we're going to stay on this picture. Some of these little photos right here are drawings of what a feminist is. So you can look at the right here, this woman in the red came from early 20th century. At the suffrage meetings, you can hear some plain things and see them too. Down with the man, right? All of these ideas have been around for a very, very long time. Okay, you can look at the other ones too. My wife won't let me vote. So this emasculation of a man. If your wife becomes a feminist, or in this case is advocating suffrage, you're gonna lose your masculinity, right? Yeah, pretty fun. So feminism is interested in addressing systems of inequality, of all kinds for all people, right? It is not just interested in benefiting women. It's a movement that really seeks to address inequalities of multiple oppressions, right? Society has really this fixation on keeping feminism down, in my opinion, because I think feminism gets to the heart of so many problems. Feminists are not just interested in advancing rights for women. What feminism has to, sometimes it doesn't, okay, let's be honest, sometimes it doesn't, it has to address issues of race. It has to address a lack of access to health care or even food, right? The food insecurity is a feminist issue. So feminism is looking at all the many problems, if we think about issues with capitalism and racism and classism, globalization. Feminists are saying we need to make sure that we're focusing our attention on all of those issues. Because again, a woman is not just a woman. There's a whole experience well, there's a whole, her life experiences that feed into her identity. And feminism really threatens those individuals that are in power, right? And there is this public relations problem that leads to just a general misunderstanding of what feminism is. I think oftentimes, so when I was talking about the different branches of feminism, one branch of feminism is called radical feminism. Really emerged out of the 70s, and this is where we get this idea of bra burning feminists, which, by the way, burning the bras never actually even really happened. But media has so popularized this idea of radical feminists or extreme feminists. Look, there are extreme radical feminists who, quite bluntly, put a really bad name to feminism. Some of the things they advocate, like a feminist utopia where men no longer exist, and some genuinely really are seeking that type of society. That's really problematic, right? But this idea of man-hating feminists has created this fear and really gross misunderstanding of what feminism is, right? And we're still dealing with that today. I think it is changing. I do think that the concept or the idea of feminism is changing in a more positive light. And as much as I don't want to thank her, but we'll get into this too, but like the Beyoncés of the world have really maybe made feminism a little bit more popular. Some of the objections, common objections that I've heard personally that are all over against feminism is that feminism pits women against men, right? There's this idea of the battle of the sexes, that feminism isn't about equality. It's about women wanting to dominate men. We see this has been occurring now, since the early 20th century, that women want to dominate men and have power over them. And that feminism is about like the advantage of women at all cost. Yeah. I think this one always kind of infuriates me, because even when I try to explain to people how misguided that is, it's very tough to argue that. So what I do, this is where the Bell Hooks definition, that feminism is a movement to end all systems of oppression, could really guide, hopefully, or encourage people to think of feminism in a deeper manner, where feminism is not just about advantaging women, right, and helping women, but it really seeks to advance human rights in general, to help men in general, like we were talking about earlier with suicide rates, everything. Another objection that I have heard about feminism is that equality has already been achieved. Women are equal to men now, right? We've got the right to vote, we've got X, Y, Z, all these rights, right? This is a very, very common one that we hear. So just briefly, and we'll go into detail in class, I want you to think about this one. I really want you to think about this objection. And maybe some of you agree, okay, that equality has been achieved, that women are equal to men. Let's think about statistically that the UN came out with a study saying 1 in 3 women have been beaten, forced into sex, suffered from some form of sexual, physical violence, right? 130 million girls worldwide are out of school. We can consider the amount of women, or lack thereof, of women in positions of power, right? All of these statistics can help us to demonstrate that women are far from equal right now, and there are still many issues that we have to deal with. There are many, I think on the flip side too, we have like a men's rights group who say, well, there are many issues that men have to face. So the U.S. draft system disproportionately or uniquely affects men, right? War deaths, suicide. In child custody battles, men typically are not going to get child custody. domestic violence, right? And feminists have to talk about these issues. And this, again, is where the bell hooks idea that we have to talk about all these systems of oppression and how they affect everyone. We have to talk about that. We have to talk about why is it that men who have been sexually violated, who have been exploited, they don't feel like they can go get help, right? With domestic violence. Or men who lose a custody battle in a situation where maybe they should have gained the right to have their children, but they didn't because we have this gendered notion that mothers should have their kids. These are issues we have to talk about, right? And they are issues that feminists are talking about. So, yeah. Let's see. Feminists, I just want to make sure I'm covering everything. We still have a little bit of time, but I will kind of let you go a little bit early today, I think. Yeah, so I guess I would argue where I want this course to go, where I have sought my feminism to go, is that we must do a better job at showing how feminism is in the majority of people's best interest, right? It's as mundane as when our daughter was born and we would go to grocery stores or somewhere out in the public, and my husband would go to change our daughter's diaper and take her into the guy's bathroom, male bathroom, and there's no changing station, right? So then I have to take her into the female bathroom to change my daughter. It's like mundane issues like that, but there's a history of sexism and gender stereotypes behind that. It's also, parental policies that prioritize maternity leave over paternity, right? So giving mothers, X amount, not that that's a whole other issue, we don't get enough maternity leave anyway, but giving them the priority over the father, right? This really denies the father the same opportunity of being with the child, but it also pushes the mother into this role of having to be the primary caretaker. So I always argue, and when I was an undergraduate, I got a lot of eye rolls, a lot of kind of negative reactions when I would always say that